Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. Really appreciate it.
Hi, John. It's nice to meet you.
Now, obviously, you got to watch things back last night. Um, how are things feeling to going today? Because I know from talking to a lot of survivors, when they do watch the things back, it brings back all those memories and all those feelings once again. So, how are you doing today?
So, in terms of watching it, I mean, watching it last night with all my closest people was amazing.
Yeah.
I've obviously known what's happened this whole time, and I love that they showed my duo with Brandon. I love, there was so much you didn't see, like how hard it was on so many levels. But I loved watching it. And so for me, like the only thing I'm reliving is I made the right decision for me.
Right.
I will say waking up this morning, and I'm not very accessible on the internet. I don't have social media. The amount of vitriol that is leaking through,
Yeah.
my work and email and strangers on the internet that are just like coming after me, like that's not fun. But I
No.
knew it would happen. And that's why making the decision I did was so scary. I mean, I said it in my final confessional. I said, I know millions of people are going to hate me. It's still not fun when people are
Right.
just like, you're the worst, go die.
Well, there can be some passionate fans, and they do go overboard. Now, let's give them a little bit of perspective here because I think context really matters. So, and again, we don't get to see everything. Tell us what was going on with you at the time and what made you make that decision in the end, because I think that's important for people to know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for me, and I mean, I'm seeing a lot of like, she should have known. I'm like, okay, well, there's only so much you can prepare. And I did
Right.
prepare in many ways for a long time. What you didn't see was, I mean, obviously Lulu, as Emily said, worst shelter in survivor history because there was no shelter. And it rained. It like monsooned for almost 24 hours. And I've always watched that and been like, you just stick it out. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
I can't describe what it feels like on your fingers and toes and your toenails almost falling off. And like, so between that, we couldn't open coconuts because we didn't have a machete. And so
Right.
we would get these tiny pieces every now and then. The no food, the rain. I didn't sleep 1 minute because some of my tribe mates snored and we were rained on and we had no shelter. We were on the ground. We weren't on bamboo. So like the no sleep, the no food, being wet, I had no control over my emotions in a
Right.
way that I would have never anticipated. I thought, I've got all these tools. This is going to be fine. So it
Mm.
was all of that mixed with knowing who was going to go home and knowing it was their dream to be there. And it was their biggest fear to leave first. And I just had a moment at Tribal where I was like, I'm not going to take their spot just to save face on TV. I'm not going to do it.
Well, and the other thing too is, I mean, sometimes like it goes with jobs and things like that. We don't know what it's like until you actually get there, and then it could be a whole different story. I think we've all been in situations where we expected one thing, and when we finally get through it, we realize, hey, this is not for us.
Yeah.
Did you let your tribe know before you went to tribal council? What was the reaction?
So I talked to them all individually, and I
Right.
was very, very open in my confessionals as well about
Yeah.
struggling with. I wasn't convinced I was going to leave. It wasn't until I was sitting at Tribal
Right.
and it started drizzling, and any resolve I had, it was like I had no control. I was like, yeah, nope, nope. Like, I said, you can't make me go back there. And but so they all knew that I was really struggling with it. And the thing is I, just like you saw in a conversation with Brandon, I was like, so I can't leave? And he's like, no. And I'd be like, okay. And then I would flip into like, okay, this is fine. I've got it. Everything's fine. I can do this. I can do hard things. And I would be like, but I might be able to eat tonight. I might be able to get a bed tonight. And I couldn't get rid of that thought. It was like an addiction. I was like, I could not separate from it. And at the end of the day, I wasn't willing to write their names down. I just wasn't.
Now, for somebody like myself, I mean, I couldn't go camping. I need my technology. I need all my stuff. So I can sympathize greatly being out there in the elements and being out of your comfort zone. If you had stayed and decided to stay, who was going home at Tribal?
It was going to be Brandon or Emily, and it depended on a myriad of factors,
Right.
including whether or not Brandon would play a shot in the dark. Kendra was at our camp for hours from Bello. And so that was a whole plot line that no one saw, which I think is good to know. Like,
Yeah,
so
I was gonna ask you, can you explain a little bit of that? Because we didn't see any of this, and you were there and you experienced. So can you lay that all out for us?
absolutely. I just think it's really good for the fans to realize like you
Yeah,
are not seeing everything. And this goes to show you would never know Kendra's there. And
right.
so what happened was we were all in the water washing off, and I was like on an upswing. I was like, you know what? This is so fun. I love this. I love Sean. I love Brandon. I love my tribe.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm in such a good place socially. Like they all had me in their pocket. It was great. And then we see a boat coming up, and it's Kendra, and everyone goes to say hi to her. And I am like, no, I can't do this. And I like walk into the jungle, like very angrily. I'm like, I cannot do this. I'm kind of glad that didn't air because like I apologized to her later that day. I was like, listen, you're so full of joy and enthusiasm and bubbly. And it was like the antithesis of everything I was feeling. And so I
Right.
was a bitch. And so I went up to her and apologized. And like we love each other and it's great. She's so wonderful. But so we didn't know she had a secret vote. And Sabaya ended up telling me because Kendra told her, it's like telephone, right before tribal. And that's when I knew I already said to Caleb, Sabaya, and Sean, I said, I'm not writing Brandon's name down.
Right.
Day 3. And I'm already like, nope, like I'm not a Survivor player. I'm just not. And I wouldn't write Brandon's name down. And so I was like, I don't want Emily to go because I love Emily and I would go to war for her. But I would rather it be Emily than Brandon, but I still felt really badly. And then I found out about the secret vote and that Kendra was going to write Brandon's name down as a backup.
Right.
And all those things culminated at tribal. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, it will devastate Emily or Brandon. It is like their worst nightmare. And you know what? I'm I'm not going to slide through the first tribal just so that I look good on TV.
Now, obviously, we only get to see, a cross section of everything that happens. Is there anything that when you were watching it back, stuff that was going on in your tribe or things that you didn't get to see that really surprised you?
The whole Kendra thing for sure really surprised me that we didn't get to see that. Do you mean what was aired or what wasn't aired?
No, what you saw last night, was there anything that surprised you about maybe people talking or anything of that? Things that you obviously weren't there and didn't get to see?
I don't think so because I'm very close with this entire cast. I just love them so much. And so I feel like we've talked a lot about all aspects of it. But it was so amazing to see Sweat and Savvy because the entirety of our time out there, and after it was like, did it really happen? Like, I don't know if I believe you. And watching Sabaya, who is a workhorse, struggle to pick up these logs and like Brando, oh my God. And then finally getting to see what that freaking puzzle looks like because we didn't know. They explained it to us, and obviously Emily was like, "They're lying," and I was just crying because we had no Flint. It was chaotic at Lulu. It was amazing to watch Sweat and Savvy.
Now, again, obviously, we only get to see so much, and I asked this to all the survivors I talked to, and maybe you'll have some insight. But again, we only get to see so much every week. Is there anything about your journey or your experience on the island that you wish they would have showed, whether it was a bond with somebody, a moment? Was there anything that you wish they would have showed more of your journey?
I mean, I really just wanted like mine and Brandon's love to be displayed because like we are just two peas in a pod. Like that's my dude. And I'm glad that during tribal they showed Sean crying and me holding his hand because Sean and I got incredibly close. And so me leaving was a real blow to him as well. And I wish, I know it's 90 minutes and so much happened, but
Yeah.
I wish you got to see more camp life. Specifically in the middle of the night. Sean and I talk about this all the time. Caleb and Sabaya are snoring so loudly, everyone's asleep, and I'm just like, hold my buff down. And I'm like, Sean, are you awake? And he's like, no. And I'm like, Sean. And we're like cry laughing with delusion at like, maybe it's 3 a.m, maybe it's 9 p.m. Like we have no idea, but like just the amount of hours. I just wish they showed more camp life and maybe there'll be some deleted scenes because those people are the best, man. Lulu forever.
Now, one last question before you go, and this may be a little bit too early, but have you thought about or given any thought if you were ever invited back, would you go back?
Yeah, I would say Oh my God, I love you, Jeff, and I love the crew. You guys are all amazing. You couldn't pay me. You could not pay me. I should have done Big Brother. Maybe I could even do the challenge. But what I have learned is I will never go on TV ever again because I don't like being on camera and being a character for the public to assassinate. I don't love that.
Well, again, sometimes we don't find out about things. We think they're one thing, and then we get involved with them and find. I think we've all been in those situations, whether it's a job or whatever. So, all the best to you for sticking it out. That has to be really appreciated, and all the slings and arrows, and all the best of luck to you in the future. It was great speaking to you, and thanks for all the insights.
Thank you so much. Shout out to all of Canada. I love you all and Canadian brother.
Take care, and all the best in the future.
Thank you.